Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everyone to the review of episode 5 of season 2 to the Disney Plus Marvel Television Daredevil Born Again, entitled The Grand Design, which marks the official second half of this second season, with 3 more episodes to go after tonight's 5th episode. This episode picks up right after episode 4, where we saw Bullseye execute his plan of eliminating Vanessa Fisk at this charity boxing event that Wilson Fisk was participating in after he killed. Even though we don't get confirmation in this episode, but we can pretty much assume that he killed his opponent in the ring. If not killed him, definitely maimed him. It was pretty brutal after he gave that shot. But Bullseye came in, he threw that figurine, that glass figurine, towards Vanessa. A Kingpin attempted to block it with his championship belt, which he did. Unfortunately, pieces of it broke apart and a fragment of it lodged into Vanessa's head, where she collapses in the ring. And we left off that episode with Kingpin holding her as she bled out and he screamed out. Very, very epic conclusion to that episode, and I was all in to see what was next. Initially, I assumed Vanessa was dead at the end of that episode, so I ain't gonna say pleasantly surprised, but I was surprised that she survived at the beginning. And I mean the beginning of this episode. We began with Matt Murdock catching up to a pretty gravely wounded Bullseye from Vanessa. Vanessa managed to get a shot off before she was impaled by that little figurine, and the bullet did indeed strike a Bullseye, which we can all assume that threw off his aim with that figurine. I don't know for certain if he planned for Wilson Fisk to break it and cause the pieces to hit Vanessa. I don't know if he was that skilled, but we are talking about Bullseye. So I don't know if that was his master plan, but it was going straight at her regardless. So I guess one way or another, she was going to get struck by that figurine. But Matt Murdock, he catches up with him in this, I don't know, restaurant kitchen, and he is struggling with the idea or the decision that he made to help this assassin, to keep him alive, the same man that murdered Foggy in front of him nonetheless. And he is definitely struggling with that decision, but he is helping and assisting him as Wilson Fisk ordered his task force to hunt down Bullseye after what he did to his beloved wife. But he orders the task force to keep him alive, because we all know that Kingpin wants to do it himself. So this episode, I will say, is the weakest so far of the 5 total episodes we've gotten in this season. And I say the weakest pretty loosely because this was a good episode, because it did, even though it was there was no action at all in this episode, but it pushed the story forward. This was more of a character driven, dialogue heavy episode, riddled with flashbacks throughout this episode. And early on, I was, the first couple of flashbacks, I was cool, but as the episode kept going, we kept flashing back to these flashbacks, and I'm like, what? Why are we telling this? we we pretty much know the story, but it was a different story that was ever told in any depiction of this character, in more accurately in the Netflix show. And one of the flashback sequences that we get throughout, a little subplot throughout, was a flashback to Foggy. And he's helping this so-called friend of his, or the brother of a friend of his, who their law firm had tasked them to defend in court. But Matt, he was kind of skittish about it because the guy is guilty. He felt the guy is guilty, and we shouldn't be trying to help to get this guy off, and this, that, and the third. And Foggy, he doesn't see it that way. He grew up with this guy. He knows the family. He knows him. He pretty much knows why he took this direction in life, in so many words. And so he wants to help him. And so they managed to get him off. And Froggy, he quote unquote borrows some money from their petty cash and gives it to the guy after he was released, and told him to leave, get far away. Don't look back, because the guy told him, look, I can't go to jail. If I go to jail, prison, I'm going to be dead in 24 hours. The people in there want me dead, which helped drive Foggy to make this decision, because they're pretty much, if they fail in their mission to get him off, which they're going to fail because he's guilty of sin, but they're sentencing him. They're personally sentencing him to death, and he just couldn't do it. And his goal was to help the guy out. So that flashback, once again, wondering why are we flashing back to this? Because the guy wasn't so nice to Foggy. It wasn't like that was a old chum from high school that, hey man, remember when we went out and did this, did that? No, the guy was pretty much messing with him and teasing him all the while the same man was trying to defend him, or going to defend him in court. And Foggy helped the guy out, and he's coming out of the guy's apartment, and as he's coming down the stairs, Matt is there. And Matt's like, okay, I figured this where you would be. And Foggy explains why he did it. And Matt didn't understand at first, but after Foggy explained it, he kind of got it, And that brings us to the present time, as Matt Murdock is helping Bullseye, or Poindexter, at helping him throughout. And they're having these conversations as they're trying to get away from this task force who is hunting them down. He brings up Foggy at certain points, and just the mention of his name enrages Daredevil, to the point that Daredevil began choking Bullseye almost to death. He was trying to kill him. Like, he was like, don't say that name. Like I say, he pulled a Batman v Superman, don't say that name. And it's triggering to Matt, because he's like, look, I'm trying to help you. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I'm trying to help you. And you mentioning my friend, you talking about my friend like he was a buddy of yours, and you killed him. I don't want to hear that. That's gonna make me go against what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the right thing, and you're gonna force me to choke the life out you. He didn't say these words, but his actions did. And I like that about it. It gets to the point where they go to the church to seek refuge. The task force manages to track them down there, and they hide out in the back. But at this point, Bullseye is so weakened, so injured from the gunshot. He's like, man, just leave me. Just leave me. Don't be stupid. Just go. And he once again he brings up Foggy. In this particular instance, he brings up Foggy to get Matt angry enough to just say, forget it, I'm gone. And he did. Matt was like, look, I tried. And he left. And then that's when we get a flashback to the scene that I mentioned earlier of where Matt is talking to Foggy after he assisted this guy he knew. And at the same time, one of the assassins or a hitman had came to that apartment to kill him. But the guy was gone because Foggy had helped him out. So he basically saved his life, even though it's a guy who he knows isn't a good guy, but he couldn't bring himself to allow him to be murdered at his expense to a degree. And with that is the revelation that he needs to be like Foggy in this moment. And I thought that was a beautiful moment. And suddenly we see the task force going through the church and they're getting closer to where Bullseye is. And then we see a hand reach out and it's Daredevil, who's back. He came back in to pull him out. And that's exactly what happened. Got him out of there. Oddly enough, brings him back to their hideout where Karen is there. And Karen sees Daredevil holding Bullseye. Once again, the man who murdered their friend now needs assistance. And so it sets up something for next week where how is she going to react? Because she doesn't have the same moral code as Matt Murdock. And I don't think it's going to play out the way that Matt is hoping. He probably is going to talk her out of it or talk her into it, I should say, some shape, form, or fashion, but it will clearly be under duress. Going back to the Kingpin storyline with Vanessa, most of this I'm saying that for last. Let's go to the Daniel part. Daniel had inadvertently leaked the condition of Vanessa to BB yet again. He's a sucker for BB because he has feelings for BB. And, I feel bad for Daniel. I didn't like the first season and a half. All of last season, half of this season. No, not even half. Maybe the first episode. But that from that moment on, I actually enjoy the Daniel character because he is truly naive. He's not in it to be part of this criminal underground that Kingpin is running. He really wants to help Kingpin. He believes in Kingpin naively, ignorantly, but he believes in Wilson Fisk and he wants to do whatever for Wilson Fisk. But unfortunately, he is smitten by BB. And so BB manages to get into the hospital and talk to Daniel and kind of manipulates him to tell her the condition of Vanessa because nobody knows if she's dead or whatever. And a few scenes later, we see that on the news that the story came out. And now he knows he's the leak. He's the leak. And he knows who is leaking it. He always did know. He just didn't want to know that. And so he ends up going on this road trip with Buck. And he halfway through the trip, he's thinking that Buck is there to kill him because he knows that he leaked the information. And if he leaked that information about Vanessa's condition, who's to say that he's not the one leaking the information to the fake Wilson Fisk that BB portrays in her little broadcast? So he's scared to death. He's so scared to death. They stop at a store. He's about to leave Buck, but he doesn't leave Buck. I mean, this is some of the best acting from Michael Gandolfini. I'm sorry, Michael Gandolfini on the show. I love him this season. I didn't like him last season. I thought he was trying too hard, but he came into his own this season. I love this character. Love Blake Daniel. And the performance by Michael Gandolfini. He reminds me of his father. His father would be proud. God rest his soul. But he decides not to leave him at this store. And when Buck walks out the only for Buck to walk out the store, and he has a shovel and a saw, which tells a valuable lesson. Always follow your first mind. If you was gonna leave, you should have left. But anyways, they continue on their mission. They're driving all the way up to Albany. Daniel, he believes that this is it. He's going up there to be murdered, chopped up, and buried. And he's pleading. They get to where they need to go, and he's pleading with Buck. He's telling the story, and Buck tells him, like, I like you. I like you, Dan. Wilson, he wants somebody who's loyal. And Daniel in this, I'm telling you, this is the best episode for Michael Gandolfini. He just, you can feel the emotion. He's like, I am loyal. I'm telling you, I'm the loyalest person there is. He's just spilling his guts. All the while, they go to the back of the car, they pop the trunk, and there's a dead body in there. He was like, okay, let's see how loyal you are. Do you want the shovel or the saw? To help dispose of this body. And so now I like that little scene. Now we get to the main one, and that is Kingpin and Vanessa. She's in critical condition, as I stated before, in a coma. A doctor comes in, reassures that he can help, but doesn't make any promises. But I'm gonna do the best I can to help her and all this here. So this is what he tells Kingpin. And so they go to have the surgery. Vanessa, she's in recovery, and all of a sudden she wakes up out of recovery. And the whole while, the flashback portions of their story were flashed back to that painting that at the art gallery where they first met. And we learned that Vanessa put that painting on display just to lure in Kingpin. And I was like, wow, because if you go back and watch the Netflix show where this all took place, it was kind of random where all that took place. And we thought that, at least up to this point, we thought that Kingpin just threw on the charm, man, and wooed Vanessa. But no, we find out in this episode that it was actually the other way around. It was her grand design, and it was. I loved it. I'm like, the way you can use previous material from a previous iteration of this show and make it canon in the way that helps move the story along. I thought that was brilliant. And Vanessa wakes up and she's speaking with Wilson Fisk like nothing's happened. She's like, oh, I'm thirsty. I want some apple juice. Oh, pineapple juice. I'm sorry, pineapple juice. And Wilson, he's like, no, you can't have that, because it makes your lips tingle and all this. She's like, no, I don't recall that. I want some pineapple juice. So he demands pineapple juice for one of the nurses. She drinks it, and everything's fine. Off the bat, you knew something wasn't right. I'm like, okay, of course she got a big chunk of glass stuck in her brain. She's going to have some effects here. She's not going to remember everything. She's probably going to be somewhat of a vegetable or have amnesia, probably won't remember him, but she did remember him. She remembered parts of him. It was like her system was trying to reboot, and she tells Fisk to tell her a story of how they first met. So he tells the story about the painting and everything, and she tells her like, oh yeah, how overpriced it. You know, you paid like 3 times more than what he was supposed to, and yada yada yada. And just then, when he finished talking about that, she started to say it again, like, "Tell me a story." I'm like, "Oh man, they're gonna give her dementia or something." You know, I'm like, "Oh, this is probably worse than death." But then death came because she started going into cardiac arrest, and as the episode ends, she began to code out, even though she didn't code out before the end of this episode. But I don't think we're gonna get 2 episodes back to back of fake out deaths from Vanessa. I don't think she's the mistress of death here, where she can fake death. But I think this one is it. This is the final goal. But what makes all I could think about at this moment was, oh my God, that doctor is good as dead. he's gonna he's gonna kill that doctor, because the doctor told him after she got out of surgery, yeah, everything went fine, and now all we can do is sit back and hope. And that just triggered something in Kingpin. He was like, hope. I don't operate with hope. You know, that ain't how I rock. You know, and so it, with her passing away, yeah, that doctor did. Um, and pretty much everybody else walking in New York City, because we're about to get a man completely unhinged from this point on this season. I am scared for any vigilante, especially Bullseye. Bullseye probably going to meet his end at the end of this episode. Or end of this season. I don't know. We will see. But this was like I said, it was a pretty. Uh, I don't want to classify it as filler episode, but it was a filler episode by definition. But it was still an awesome episode that drove the story forward, that pretty much gives our characters motivation, what motivations they have for the remaining 3 episodes of this season. Wilson Fisk lost the one thing he loved in his world, and his beloved. Uh, uh, the Karen Page, Matt Murdock, Bullseye dynamic that has literally walked through the door at the end of this episode. And we still haven't seen Jessica Jones, and there's no spoilers. She was all in the trailers and everything. We all know Jessica Jones is in this season, and so I'm assuming she will pop up within the next week or week after. We shall see. So I did enjoy this episode. Man, look, I am enjoying this season as a whole. This is some of the best Marvel we've gotten in such a long time. I can't be more proud of this show, more happy for Marvel, because they needed a win. My God, they needed a win in the worst way. But I would like to know, are you enjoying Daredevil Born Again Season 2 so far like I am? Or are you like, it's all right? Or whatever the case may be. It's all subjective. I would love to know your opinion. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5, The Grand Design. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.